Beautiful. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome Monday morning business coaching. We're going to begin with a couple of journaling prompts. So, if you don't already have a piece of paper and a pen or some way to write things down, please grab that now. I love to actually physically write, and I've mentioned before, various different studies have shown that when you do actually physically write, you get like the brain kind of memory, psychological connections, neural pathway connections work a lot better. So physically writing is great, but if you're typing, that's also totally fine too. So let's dive in with a couple of journaling prompts. And I just want you to freeform. I just want you to let it flow. So stream of consciousness. The first one is, where are you currently struggling in your business? Try and keep it just to your business, because if it's a list of all the things you're struggling with, it might be a bit longer. Just in your business, where are you struggling in your business? What challenges are you facing? And they could be external, around things like sales or opportunities or numbers, or they could be internal around things like procrastination or feeling stuck or not being sure what your offerings are or something like that. Where are you currently struggling? And just be really honest. And once you've written the really obvious things that come to mind straight away, I want you to go a layer deeper and keep going. So, like, what's beneath that? So, if it's procrastination, what's beneath the procrastination? If it's feeling like there's a lack of opportunity, what's underneath that? Like, go a little deeper, because often there's some real gold when we dig in, and we tend to sometimes get a little bit stuck in this idea that everything has to be shiny and positive and bright. And if we think about negative things, then we're going to spiral into negativity. And I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that that's always true. I think that sometimes when we name the elephant in the room, we name the area of stuckness, we name the challenge, actually what we realize is it can be overcome much more easily. So just naming it can be super helpful. And also knowing that these things change and shift all the time. So whatever challenges you've written down, what's underneath them? What's underlying? What's behind the challenge? What's in the shadow? Let's call it out. And then just switching gears, and this one might be also quite tricky. I want you to write 3 specific, tangible actions that you have taken in your business in the last week. You are limited to the last 7 days. Specific, tangible actions that you have taken. Hopefully there's more than 3, but just pop 3 down on that list for me. Okay, now you're more than welcome. It's lovely to see most of you with camera on. That's really nice. You're more than welcome to share in the chat if you want to. You can share a little summary of your challenges and a little bullet point list of your actions. But I'd also love to hear from you. So who would like to jump in and just have a share? Hopefully we'll get to a few people today.
I can share, Katie.
Great, thank you, Georgia.
Okay, so my
First of all, actually, before you do, sorry to interrupt you, give us a little elevator pitch about your business. Tell us, for those who don't know, very, very brief summary of what your business is and what you do.
Definitely. So I'm Georgia. I'm a menstrual cycle coach, and I work with women who are learning to regain the power of their cycle and reconnect to it. So I am in the middle of designing and launching my 5-week course. And my struggle is definitely putting myself out there. I've got the course, I've got the creativity, I've got the landing page, but me actually selling myself is definitely the biggest struggle for me at the moment. And like I've been working with a few people on this, and it's funny, like Katie, what you just asked us to write down is exactly like what's coming up in my sessions about me not feeling good enough or me feeling judged. And so that's what, yeah, I'm really trying to work on because no one's judging me. Like people are actually like, wow, this is amazing knowledge. Like I need to know it. So for me, it's stepping into that power and yeah, taking charge of it and actually doing like, because I've been working so hard behind the scenes. So it's just, yeah, trying to push
Get
it
it
out
out
there.
there. All right,
Yeah, get it out
let's
of the
talk
zone.
about that piece around being judged. So you've already said it's not actually happening. People are being
Mm,
really supportive. It's all in your head.
mm,
But what's the voice in your head? And just be really honest now. You're in a closed private group. This isn't going to go outside of this little space.
yeah.
What do you fear people judging you? Like what are the voices like? What would be the worst things people could be saying?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't
No,
know.
you do know. You do know.
Do I?
Yeah,
Oh,
try harder. Like, what
um,
would be really embarrassing? What would you feel really awkward and icky? Like, what is it? Name it.
just that like she's a bit gross or a bit woo-woo, like that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely that. It's just like, oh, this again. Oh, that's what I feel like is coming up. It's like, and I know I'm sharing from like a place of education as well, but I feel like I'm just sharing too much, if that kind of
Okay.
makes
All
sense.
right, hang on. Let's slow it down. So you've said four things. You've said you're repeating yourself too much. So people are
hmm
like, oh, this again.
hmm
You're woo-woo. It's gross. And what was there was one other piece in there.
I can't remember.
Oversharing.
hmm
Okay. So they're all different things and they're all perfectly valid. Like, I mean, I'm sure they're things that other people raise your hand if you've ever had any of those thoughts about putting your work out into the world. Right. So it's not, you're certainly not alone. It's really useful to name it. And I don't want us to get stuck in this thing of when you name it, that means you're negative or you're like, we can't just whitewash out the challenges. We have to actually dig into them a little bit and then overcome them. And that's when you'll be overcoming them from a place of really genuinely not caring anymore
Mm.
versus I still feel uncomfortable, but I'm just going to pretend it's all okay because
Yeah,
that
or just
people
pressing
can
post and not
right.
checking.
People can
Yeah, that's
feel
me.
that. Um, so I mean, menstrual cycle, it's much less taboo than it used to be, but it is still a little bit of a taboo subject. And so I can totally see why, it would feel uncomfortable. Um, do you think there's a piece in here, and this may or may not be true, where it's about who sees your work? Is that
Yep.
part of it, do you think?
Yep. I
Yeah.
think so. I think you're right. Yep.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things you can do there. Either you decide that you just don't care and you're just going to do you and it is what it is,
Yep.
or you can block people that you don't want to see your stuff. And that's
I've,
perfectly acceptable to do. So, I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. I have an ex-boyfriend who he was my first boyfriend, my high school boyfriend. We're really still very good friends. We got divorced around the same time, so we had a lot in common around the time we both got divorced. He's got children very similar age to mine. We've both just been through very similar journeys. He's highly, highly successful. He's a film producer. He's a multimillionaire, self-made, incredible man. And I'm me doing what I do. And he's very respectful of everything I do and very like sweet and lovely. But I would be lying. I mean, we went to high school together. So it's like a big evolution for me as a human being from high school, right? I know he looks at my social media and it makes me feel so uncomfortable. And there's nothing between us anymore other than friendship. Like we're just very good friends. But what I hear in my head when I know that he looks at my social media is the whole of my high school, kind of the narrative that would, be for me as like a 16 or 17-year-old girl doing the work I do and what all the boys at high school would have to say about that, right? And so it's just this kind of like contraction feeling. He's never said anything negative. In fact, actually, he's very positive and sweet, but it just, whenever I see that he's seen a story or seen a post or even, God forbid, commented, I'm just like,
Yeah.
right? So I could block him. I'm not going to do that because he's lovely. And actually, it's for me to just overcome it and own it and be the person who I am. I'm 46. I can't be living with the voice of the high school boys 30 years later still in my head. But it is there, it's present, right? So the thing for me is like, well, I acknowledge it's there. I feel the contraction. And then my choice is to just overcome it, let it go. Who cares, really, right? Similar feeling I have when my teenage boys look at my social media, which they love to do every so often and just start teasing me relentlessly sometimes. um, just, and then one of my sons said to me the other day, oh God, Mum, I'm so glad that your Instagram is Bhakti Rose, not Katie Rose, because if it was Katie Rose, my friends could find it. And there's just so much stuff in there that they could tease me for. He was like, thank God it flies under the radar because they can't find it. And it is a thing for teenage boys to find their friends' mums' social media and then have a good tease, light-hearted and fun, like not bullying or anything like that, but still contraction, right? So these people are going to see your socials. And as you do more work in the world and get more exposed, so it gets deeper. Like for me, the next step on from social media is writing books. I mean, my last book, Trust Life, Trust Yourself, Find Peace, was very personal, like really, and I put it out there in the world. And of course, I get lots and lots of beautiful responses from people who gain so much from it. But there's also like, oh my God, is my mum going to read it? Is my ex-boyfriend going to read it? Is my friend from that I fell out with from a job I did 20 years ago going to read it? And you feel exposed. So that's a very real thing and it's very valid. And I'm laboring the point because I know this is relevant for all of us. The way that I've worked through it is working on the I really don't care muscle, like really just the resilience of, I think Edwina said it the other day in a text message, got no more fucks to give. Just like who cares at this point, Um, and then another piece is really checking in with my authenticity. Like, can I back myself on everything I post, even if it's woo-woo, even if it's weird, even if I feel a little bit awkward or contracted? Is it authentically me? Because if you get the ick feeling because it's genuinely not aligned, that's very different to feeling a little bit ick because you're up leveling. You're stepping beyond out of your comfort zone. And this is where the whole imposter syndrome thing gets very interesting, because there's a massive difference between imposter syndrome that is happening because you're actually not qualified for the thing you're putting yourself forward for, which can happen, right? Versus imposter syndrome, which is you're expanding and up leveling and you've got to put yourself out there. So I know for you, Georgia, like without a doubt, the quality of the work you do is immaculate. Like this is the contraction that you're feeling is the up leveling. It's the exposure. And you have another job and you have other people in your life. And also when your social media is still growing and smallish, you know that most of the people looking at it are people that know you. And that is also a little bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're so right on that. And also linking back, because I think the ick comes because I'm a primary teacher and my page is public and I've got this big divide of, oh my gosh, I'm this like menstrual cycle coach, but I still teach year one primary school. So that's the ick and that's where it's coming from. And so I know that and I'm owning that. So yeah, thank you for
and you do have choices around how you manage that. There's a lot of things you can do. You can choose to keep your life in very separate compartments. You can even make your page private if you wanted to. I mean, there's a lot of different ways of dealing with it. Or you can do what I've personally chosen, which is all areas of my life are open to all areas of my life, and it is what it is, And if people love it, they love it. And if they don't, that's okay too, and I can live with that, and I'm big enough and grown up enough to hold space for that. But the contraction is still felt. There's still that little moment, and then we just breathe into it and we choose to release it and let it go. So that's one piece. And I would say just feeling into it and then choosing to let it go and continuing to do your work in the world is probably the healthiest response. Like I have no idea what happened there. My Zoom just literally dropped out. You'll get more and more comfortable as you do it. And another thing that's really, really helpful is always coming back to remembering who you're serving. Forget about your mum, your sister, the parents at school, whatever it might be, and just coming back to, I'm actually showing up here to be of service, and I know that the work I'm doing is so needed, and that's really helpful too. Yeah. Do you want to share with us your wins over the last week?
Yes, my wins have been a little bit small. I've been very sick and yeah, it's been a big week in my family. But I did do a free workshop series last week. So I did a 3-day workshop series, which was a massive out of my comfort zone experience. And it was interesting to see the first day I had a lot more live than the next 2 days, and it's just the way it is. But yeah, it was good for me to keep showing up live. And like the third day I wasn't feeling well and I was like, I don't want to do it, but I was like, you've signed up to doing this, so it was really rewarding as well. So in prep, are you still there, Katie?
I'm
Lost you
here.
again.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
here.
You're
I
just on
don't
the screen.
know, my Zoom seems to be misbehaving. Can you see me?
I can't, but maybe everyone else can. Oh, yeah, I can. Yep.
Oh,
So weird. But I have, like, in preparation, I've created a big launch list for myself. I'm someone that needs to have everything kind of written out. So I've got my social media plan, and then next to it, I've got my email plan as well, because my emails is where I fall off the bandwagon. I keep forgetting about that. So I've yeah, been able to create my content for my emails from my socials. So that's my biggest win, I think, those two
huge.
things.
They're
So
massive
yeah.
things.
Yeah, and like my landing page is pretty much done, so I'm really proud of it. So yeah, they're my 3 wins.
Beautiful. I think you're on track and
Thank
doing
you.
really well. And also, I want to acknowledge, because I've witnessed you go through not being well and, having some roadblocks in the way and still keep going. And it's so easy to not do that. So yeah, I really want to witness you in that and know and say to you that I've seen you continue, even though it may have slowed down or it may have felt
Yeah.
like it's not as fast as you wanted. You haven't given up and you have kept going. And that's all we need to do to be successful. We just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Thank you, Katie.
Good on you. Who'd like to jump in next? We're sharing some challenges that are coming up in our business and then our wins of the last week.
I
I'll
can
jump
go.
in.
Oh, you can go,
Oh, you
Edwina.
go, Chloe. No, you go.
You go, Chloe, and then we'll go to Edwina.
Okay. Thank you. So, well, I'm sorry, my kids. We'll just pretend that's not happening. So I said what I'm struggling with is sales and converting sales. Producing and creating what I have in my mind, and like the back end stuff of actually sitting down and doing all the things to make everything link up. And then feeling like it's not worth it was what came up when you said go deeper in that section. Like, why would people buy from me? And creating content to sell and get engagement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Feeling like it's not worth it, why would people buy from me? They're two slightly different things. So feeling like it's not worth it, do you mean the amount of time and energy you have to put in for the small
No,
return you
what
get?
I'm creating.
Oh, like, so actually feeling like the quality of the product that you're creating isn't good enough. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I guess just, yeah. And I think sort of some of the stuff that Georgie was saying as well, like but when you speaking to George, it came up like for me, feeling a bit like a fraud. Like I know that I've done the study and I know that I've got, like I know the stuff, but I think because I've taken so much time off with having my babies and mothering and then like coming into it again, it's
Yeah.
like,
But has having your babies and mothering been a completely irrelevant
not
journey
at
to
all.
what you're teaching?
Not at all. It's like,
Isn't that actually you've lived the thing you're going to be sharing about,
yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
you actually imagine if you hadn't
Experience.
had your babies and been mothering and you were teaching what you're teaching, it would have less personal experience behind it, right?
Yeah.
It's such a bloody patriarchal, societal, damaging narrative that because we're parenting, we're losing time or we're not doing the other more important things. Like I'm I'm on a big feminist bandwagon about this at the moment because I just feel so strongly that our parenting, our mothering, our showing up for our families is part of our businesses. It's part of the work we do. It's what actually makes us uniquely positioned to share and serve in a way that is completely different to this hyper professionalized, masculine mode, capitalist way of being. Like it just, yeah. So I really want to reframe that for you and say the time off you've had to be a mum was time that you invested in what you teach in your business, even if that wasn't conscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
The rest of it, the back end stuff, you know, it's just
That's hard.
it's so weird, guys. I don't know what's going on. My Zoom just like literally just dies and you just all disappear in a puff of smoke.
You come back on easily enough though.
I just log back in and then I'm there, but it's
Yeah.
odd. It doesn't even glitch or anything. It just out of nowhere just
Drops.
yeah.
You've been popping up with your name and Edwina's face. I don't know if she's got another screen of you. And so when that, it seems to coincide with when that pops up, you disappear.
That might be me. In my phone might be trying to connect and logging you out.
Oh, yeah, because it keeps coming
I
up.
was logged in into you last week for the meeting.
Sabotage. No worries.
Sorry.
Okay.
Here we go.
Can you stop it, please? Because I'm losing my flow over here.
Sorry, I'm just here to sabotage your day.
Okay, back end stuff, pulling it all together, making all your back end systems speak to each other. I do not have a magic wand for that. It's boring, it's tedious. You just have to do it. The only thing I can say that's a silver lining is when you've done it once, twice, three times, it gets a lot quicker and easier and you learn what you're doing. So again, it's that learning curve. You just got to put the time in. I mean, when I think back to how much time I put into Kajabi when I first learned it and I was first building my website, hours and hours and hours, and sometimes lost hours where you do something, you realize you've done it all wrong, or you've got to go back and do it all again, or, you know, it just is what it is. And I promise you that every hour that you invest in that is a solid hour that you've invested in your business, because you're learning something that will serve you for as long as your business exists. Even if, and I've said this before, but it's so important, I'm going to say it again, even if you end up outsourcing all of this stuff, I mean, like a lot of the back end stuff in my business, I don't do anymore. I get support with it, but I understand it and I know what's being done. So when I'm outsourcing it, I understand what I'm outsourcing. It's not just some sort of thing I don't understand, right? So yeah, it just see it as an investment, see it as a means to an end and keep going. And you know, maybe do little bits each day. You know, it's hard to sit and do like hours and hours of it in one go, but if you just spend half an hour here, 45 minutes there, an hour here, you'll be surprised how much you chip away at it.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I've got. It's a
Yeah,
half an hour
exactly. You got
of,
your
like,
little windows
sitting in a
with the
park
kids.
trying to get
Yeah.
Wi-Fi to join this call at the moment because where
Yeah.
we've got none. So
This is the juggle. Yeah.
yeah.
But like, you know, like I said to Georgia, same thing. It's like you're continuing on, you keep going. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You've just built a beautiful sales page. So you're doing the work. You're doing the work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well done. All right. Edwina, let's see if we can talk without you booting me off.
I won't
Stealing
boot
the
myself
limelight.
off. I won't interrupt my own.
No, we'll be fine for the next 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh. So some challenges. Well, one big challenge for me in the last couple of weeks or months really has been not having a home and being really you know, just unsettled and not having my tech set up, for example, what I just happened there, you know, like not having my phone, all of those sorts of things has been a bit of a challenge, but I'm working through it and making do with what I can. I'm sitting in my caravan at the moment at my sister-in-law's property, her beautiful property up in the Hunter. We're here for a few days until we move a bit further north. So that's been a bit of a challenge. I'm out of that routine of getting up early, doing my work in the morning because and it's been raining nonstop, so I can't even go and sit outside and do it. So hopefully that all settles. And so I'm just finding my time is just really stretched at the moment. So really trying to expand my time and find pockets like you, Chloe, and like all of us everywhere where I can. So that's been a bit of a challenge, but you know, I'm okay with that and I'm working through it. I'd say that's been my biggest challenge, just that the feelings of sort of overwhelm sort of taking on sometimes. Thank God for meditation and those practices that we've all got. And then a big win, which I feel really great about, is I've moved my website, my Edwina Peden website, so my yoga and Ayurveda business, over to Kajabi. And I've been wanting to do this forever. So I've had my Shakti Creative website always on Kajabi, and I've just been running my courses from Kajabi, my membership and my courses for my yoga business, Ayurveda business on Kajabi. And I still have my old WordPress website, which had tons and tons of content on it, which I was really worried. And I think I was procrastinating because there was a lot of work. I have had some help moving some things over, which has been great, my blogs and everything. And B, it was just like so mind-boggling, you know, how am I going to find time to do this? And I did exactly what you were saying to Chloe. It's like I just did an hour here and an hour there because I'm still doing a lot of work for my clients and everything as well. So that felt really good last week to actually do that. So now I just need to move the real URL over and make sure everything's off the WordPress website so I don't lose any SEO or search engine optimization. But that was a goal that I set back in January to have that done. And I've got it. Yeah, and I've got it done. So that feels really good. Everything's now in the one place. I feel like I've moved my emails over, my blog post. Yeah, everything's there. And it just feels so much more simple now because I'm not bouncing around. Like I feel like that's taken away so much headspace from trying to get everything working between the two. Yeah.
And sometimes, isn't it like this in business? Sometimes there's this thing we know we need to do to streamline or to make something more efficient. Or it might be that you know you need to spend some money on something, or you need to train in something like learning how to use the back end of Kajabi or whatever it might be. And we put it off and put it off. But actually, when you're putting it off, you're causing yourself more stress and costing yourself more time. And when you rip the Band-Aid off and you do the thing, at least you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, and it was costing me more money as well because I was still paying for all the other things to connect, like all the other things that were connected to connected to WordPress. So I was sort of doubling up and I was like, yeah, I've got to stop. I've got to really streamline everything. So it was great. It feels good.
Beautiful. Love it. Winning. Thanks.
Yeah.
I want to jump to Trace because she emailed me this morning, and you'll hear Trace on the call. And Trace was asking a couple of really good questions, actually. So I'll just answer those first. The first thing she was talking about was so she runs some different sessions and classes at an ashram that has, you know, a community of people that come regularly. And she has a QR code for some of her freebies that she's wanting to kind of share with the people, the participants of the ashram and the classes in the ashram. And you know what sprung to mind straight off the bat, Trace, was you were describing that you were doing that sharing at the end of the session, which is what I always used to do as well. For a long time, it's sort of like, you know, you finish the session and you say to people, if you want to work with me more, or you want to, you know, continue on the journey or whatever. But the trouble is when you've just done a yoga class or a sound bath or a healing and everyone's in that beautiful, yummy shavasana state, and then you're there with a QR code, you know, wanting to get them to sign up for your thing or whatever, it can feel a bit clunky. It can feel a bit like awkward. And so actually what I do now when I'm running in-person events is at the beginning, like I'll introduce myself and, you know, before we get diving into the actual practice, I'll say, I have got blah, 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 freebies. There's little cards you can pick up with the QR code. I'm going to leave them here. I'm not going to tell you about all the things I'm doing at the end of the session because I want you to feel relaxed and able to float off on a bubble without me hustling at the end. So I'm just letting you know now that I've got a retreat coming up, a workshop coming up. You can sign up for this thing online. Here's a little flyer. And then sometimes, and so you do it at the beginning, and that's sort of a very different energy. People are fully attentive. They're engaged. It doesn't feel awkward. And then if they love the session, of course, they'll remember and they know, okay, you know, I remember I can sign up for this thing or whatever. Another thing you can do, which I do quite often, it's pretty successful, is if you've got little postcards or flyers or like just even a business with a QR code, all you need is a little business card. You can place those on people's mats while they're in Shavasana. So when they come out of Shavasana, it's there. They don't have to do anything with it straight away, but it's a piece of something tangible, a paper that they then take with them, which is makes people much more likely to sign up because they've actually got a little thing they could stick on their fridge or, you know, pop in their notebook or whatever. So that's another tip that I use there, because I agree with you. It does feel awkward if people are just coming out of deep relaxation and then you're kind of putting them into a different frame of mind. It just doesn't quite feel right. The other question you had, Trace, was around running a paid community in Kajabi. Well, for you, it's in Kajabi, but it could be any format. So like a membership type of community, when you've got a reasonable number of people that are doing things with you regularly. And I have to say, my honest opinion about this is I'm really hesitant to recommend it until people have a very solid, quite large following. So when I first launched Bhakti Rose, my Ayurveda yoga business, nearly 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago now, the online version of my business, I launched with a membership straight away. It was called the Bhakti Rose Collective, and it didn't really work. It was a lot of work for me to create the content for it. I didn't get the site. It wasn't expensive. I think it was $30 a month. I didn't get the numbers to make it worth it. I had like 15, 20 people. And I ended up canceling it. I then spent a solid 2.5, 3 years building up my audience, building up my online following, selling my trainings, my workshops, my offerings. And then I launched Bhakti Club, which is very similar to the original offering. It's not that the offering changed particularly. Similar-ish price point, a little bit more expensive. And it was very successful. But that was because I had really primed my audience, and membership is coming. And I had a really strong online following that I'd spent years developing. If you create a membership too early, what happens is you're having to do a lot of content creation and you're not really getting paid for it because you've only got this limited number of people. So what I recommend you do instead is create the offerings that you would put in the membership and run them as individual workshops, series of workshops, you know, courses, what have you. That will build your audience up, and it will also get you generating income. And then when you've reached a point where where you feel confident every time you put something on sale, whether it's a one-off workshop or a course or whatever, people are going to buy it. That's when you know you're ready to launch a membership. When you're not having to really work too hard anymore to get people into your individual offerings and containers. Otherwise, it's a lot of work for not much return. And I know the membership model feels so appealing because it's recurring revenue, it's reliable revenue. But the other thing you got to remember is you're probably not going to be charging huge amounts, like Trace was talking about, maybe $17 a month. You'd be better off putting all your effort into creating that content and then charging something a bit more higher price point for it until you've got the numbers. Membership works really well. Like at the moment, I've got 113 women in Bhakti Club. And that is a nice recurring revenue for me. But I've worked my arse off to get those numbers. And I still have some questions around whether it's for the return worth the amount of effort. It's a lot of work, and I make just as much money when I run a training, run a group program, so I like it because I like the stability of it. And also I just actually really like the community element. I really like having that group of women that are kind of in a container over a long period of time with me. I really enjoy that from a teaching perspective. But from a purely business perspective, like I said, unless you got the big numbers, it's probably not worth it. Is that helpful, Trace?
Yes, thanks, Katie. I was thinking along the lines of not so much like the Bhakti Club, because you do, like, it's so generous, and it's, for me, it's so overwhelming to even think of creating that much content. I was thinking of, I have got a program that is a higher price, but I need something smaller that I thought maybe people come and speak to me afterwards and I've got nothing to offer them other than working for $600.
Yeah, right. So you need a stepping stone. You need a mid-range offer.
Yeah. So, or would it even be worth me doing, hey, I run once a week, a 45-minute session for free, jump into this. And then if you want to go further with it, you can. But I also need to have it so it's rolling, that people jump in that are brand new. I find that hard. I've worked with my cancer patients and it's a rolling, people are jumping in all the time. And how do you progress the people? Also deal with the beginners in that 145 minutes. So I've got these
also
thoughts.
when you do something all the time, it loses momentum. It's tiring for you and it loses excitement for your audience. What I would do is I would run some 4 or 6 week containers that are low cost. I wouldn't have them be free, but I'd have them be group sessions online. And run them in cycles. Like, you could run one between now and Christmas, for example. Maybe you schedule it to start early November and it runs for 4 weeks. So you spend October promoting it, you get people in, and then you run it for November. And that's a beautiful low cost stepping stone offering. And then afterwards, when it's done, you can even record it and bundle it up and have that for sale as an evergreen offering as well, depending on how. If it's very interactive, it doesn't work. But if it's got teaching content in it, that can work really well. And then I would have that be a mid-range price point. Like you could make it really cheap, like really good value. Like maybe it's $47 or something like that for 4 weeks. It's like very low cost, or $108 or something. Yeah.
Well, Edwina on her last session, she talked about this as well in terms of like recording the 3-day thing, which one of the girls just said that they did. Who was that, Georgie? Yeah. And like for me, that's terrifying. But I know that's, building the resilience and getting the confidence to do it. But I still feel like you and Edwina are so generous with your free stuff. So I'm thinking like maybe once a month, I don't know, there's something there where I'm working that people are coming to me. I could be offering something. It could be 45 minutes of my time once a month or something like that to funnel them into.
Yeah, once a month sounds a lot more sustainable than once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, once a month sounds like it could work really well. Or just do it pop up when you feel like it. Like my free things, like, you know, Carly codes or little workshops that I'm doing here and there, they're fairly spontaneous. You know, I usually plan them about a month in advance. Like I know I'm going to do something, but I don't say I'm always running a free workshop on the first Sunday of the month or something like that, because that feels a bit like then I've got to always make sure I do it. Some people like that kind of structure. That could work for you, but for me, I quite like doing little spontaneous pop-up things.
No, I'm with you.
Especially for you, because you're traveling a bit
Yeah.
and you've got other commitments. You don't want to be locking yourself in every week. You'll be in your camper van trying to get Wi-Fi, you know.
Like Edwina.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. That's very helpful.
Yeah, no worries. Shay.
Sort of following on from that talk about sort of low cost and the mid-range offers, I was interested to ask you about the low cost offers you've been doing lately. Like you've got a workshop coming up, I think it's $30, and it's on the mantra for the goddess and like around that Devi mantra. And you and Edwina did the business thing, which went for a week, but it was $33. Do you think is that something you're able to do because you've got a big following, like a low cost, really deep? Yeah.
So it's actually quite a new thing that I'm trying. If I'm focusing on an upsell, right? If I'm focusing on, I want to sell, you know, the Bhakti Business Group program or Ayurveda Goddess or people into Bhakti Club, like a bigger upsell, something over $500, let's say, then I'm going to offer something free as a funnel into that. And you guys have heard me talk about this a lot. It's a win-win. First of all, it's really good quality, high value free content, which I love, because then I feel like I'm really still servicing my community. I never, ever want to be at the place where people can't come and do a lot of free things with me. And I get emails all the time from people saying, because my system tags what they've done. Some people have done every free thing I've ever offered and never spent any money. And I honestly love that. I'm like, this person's really into my work. They're really, you know, they're a fan and they don't have a budget. And I understand. It's fine. It's beautiful, actually. And then, of course, the people that want to go deeper and pay and join paid containers, that's also fantastic. And that's what makes the business work. So it's a win-win. More recently, I've experimented, and Edwina and I have experimented together with low cost sort of entry point options. They don't massively work. Like, so Business Breakthrough, we did, it was, I can't remember how much it was. I think it was $33 or something like that, maybe $29. It was around the $30 mark. We did not get many signups. And then we ended up doing a lot of like coupon codes for it to become free. So we basically got the bums on seats for that because we gave it away to a lot of people. Mostly through affiliates. So people we knew who had like a yoga studio or something like that, we'd say, look, can you share this with your people? And they can get it for free, even though it's actually $33. Which then also I have a bit of an ethical question mark over, because I don't like it when some people have paid $33 and some people are free and there's no selection process. Like if it's a scholarship program or something, fair enough, because then they've applied and that's a different thing. But if it's just like, oh, if you got lucky and you happened to be on this person's mailing list, it's free, but otherwise it's $33, that doesn't feel right to me. And then the Davy workshop, again, like, I mean, I'll get like semi-decent numbers, but I won't get it. Like if maybe, let's say I might get 25 to 30 people for that mantra workshop, which is $30. Whereas if I ran that for free, I'd get between 300 and 500 people. So if I want to upsell, I definitely have to do it for free to just get the numbers coming through, right? The reason I did the Davy workshop at $30 is because I've done so much free stuff recently. I was like, you know what? Everyone can pay for this, even Bhakti clubbers. They've had a lot of free stuff recently. I was like, no more free lunches. If you want to be in on this one, you got to pay. And it's only I made it cheap for that reason. But I feel completely fine about that because I've just been very prolific recently with freebies in my business. So it's always a bit of a juggle. But if you're working for an upsell, free is the way to go. I feel like I answered that a little bit round the houses. It's because there isn't really a clear answer, but I think Edwina and I pretty much decided after Business Breakthrough, which was that low cost offering, we won't do a low cost offering like that again. We'll do it where it's free. The other reason that people do a lower cost offering, like for example, Victoria Washington does them very often, is if you're a big business, and I'm not quite there yet, maybe I'll be there within the next 2 or 3 years, but I'm not, my business isn't quite big enough yet. It pays for your Facebook ads. So if you're running big number like Facebook ads, like spending thousands of dollars a week, and then you're capturing a certain number of people that are paying $30 or $40 for something, it pays for the ads. So it's a really nice way of getting the numbers in and yeah, it becoming like a closed loop. But my budget for Facebook ads, I do run Facebook ads, but I don't spend enough for that to work yet. Does that make sense? Yeah, no worries. No worries. Who'd like to jump in next? A share about your challenges and your progress steps.
Hi, how you going?
Easy.
So I'm pretty much the same as everyone else, you know, just feeling like no one's really interested and really scared to put myself out there. And yeah, and I really have to learn to not really give a fuck. And yeah, and as you said, come back to who I'm really serving. Yeah, and I don't know, I feel like with my website, people look, but no one jumps in. No one jumps in at the free offering. So maybe they must be just a bit like, ho hum, who cares? I'm not really interested. So maybe I thought I maybe need to look at that.
It could be that, or it could be that the offering isn't speaking to them. So what if I come onto your website, remind me, it's a discount, right? Is that what I get?
Yeah, you get like a free little video, a couple of little free videos, and then 40% discount off first class.
Okay. And when people come to the first class with you, what's your retention rate like? So if people are coming to class at your place, how often, like what is the likelihood that they'll then come back?
Well, I find that people come for maybe 5 or 6 weeks and do classes, and then they don't come back. I mean, I've got my core regulars,
yeah,
who come every week,
yeah.
But then there's sort of people who sort of float in and then they float away again.
Yeah,
and
some of that can just because they're traveling or moving through or whatever. But some
that's
of it
right.
Be,
and I find work shifts change, yeah. And you know, things like that, and the times don't suit, and that sort of thing. Look, and I so, like I've been filming my classes and things like that, and I just look and I just go, oh my God, I just don't like myself on film at all. But anyway, I know I've got to get over that. And yeah, that's about it, really.
So with the not liking yourself on film thing, I mean, honestly, unless you're like having a film crew come and do it like and spending thousands and thousands of dollars to have it done professionally and you know filters and God knows what else, most likely you won't like it. And that's not just you, that's everybody.
I know. So
the thing about that is we just have to get over it. Like it's
I know.
you know, yeah, I still feel the same, and you know, it just is what it is. It just is what it is, and we just have to get over it.
That's
you know what
it,
I
know.
like the most is when people post pictures of me online that I haven't approved, where I look really stupid or like unattractive. You know, it's like, because when it's your own stuff, you can filter it, like, or choose, or, you know, like choose the best shot, obviously. But it's like when I've been to a workshop with someone and they've just done a selfie, or they've filmed me and I didn't know, and then they post it and I'm like, are you serious? Like, yeah, but you just, like, it's a good lesson. You just let it go. It's like, swipe up. And then the other thing was, I think the 40% discount, you know what I would trial, Susie? I would trial first class is free.
First
I
class
would
is
trial
free,
it
okay.
and see what happens. Get them in. Just get them in. Because if you're retaining them for 4 to 6 weeks, they're coming back. It's not like they're coming and they hate it and they never come back. They're coming back. So another thing you could do is you could look at people that came and didn't come back, and you could send them a special offer. You could say, hey, we miss you. You know, here's a free class if you come back before the end of November, or here's a buy one, get one free, or whatever you want to give them. But bring the people back. It's so much easier to sell to people who've bought from you before. Let me say that again, because this was a big mentality shift for me. It's so much easier to sell to people who've bought from you before. And I used to have the thinking of, oh no, this person's already spent money with me. I'm not going to ask them for more. I feel bad. They already bought Ayurveda Goddess. I'm not going to try and sell them Bhakti Club. You know what I mean? It's such a mistake. The people that love you, and they're going to come back and they want more. So how can you sell more to the people who already have purchased from you? How can you bring them back? I mean, I've told you this before. I've had people come back after 20 years, literally. It's crazy. There's a woman who's in my business express program with Edwina at the moment, beautiful Sarah. She'll probably watch this replay. She was a babysitter for my son, who's now 18, when he was a newborn baby. So, you know, people come back around. Like, it's such a lovely thing. So yeah, that like, bring them back in, give them an offer. But also, I think 40% discount, maybe it's not juicy enough. Just give them a freebie for the first class. And you don't have to do it forever. You could say it's just for the month of November. And then you could create some little cards that you give out to your existing people and say they can't use it because they're in. It's got to be new people only. But give them some cards. And can you bring your neighbor, friend, sister, mum? It's free.
Right, a free class for someone else. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I still want to do this thing over the summer with Yoga by the River and have it as donation. Like, I want to donate money for charity. So I've really got to pull my finger out and start advertising that. But I'm a bit scared, you know. I just think, oh, what about if I go to all this effort and no one comes?
Yeah. Get your existing community on board first of all. Again, selling to the people that already love you, and, you know, get them on board first and then build it out from there. And I would have a minimum donation if it's for charity, because sometimes when it's completely donation, it gets devalued and then it doesn't sell. So when we did the fundraiser for Palestine at the beginning of this year, we had a suggested minimum donation, and that really does help people.
Okay.
It helps people to commit.
So probably like $5 at least.
For a class.
Yeah.
What do you normally charge?
Oh, I charge $20 for a yoga class.
Not 5, maybe the same, maybe 20, because it's for charity. Or a little bit less, but mostly people are happy to give money for charity. You know, it doesn't have to be. Another thing you could do is you could have it be recordings that you send out. So you do some in person, and then they also get a bundle of the recordings, which will help you overcome your fear of getting your recordings out there too.
Right. Okay.
I'm blowing your mind, aren't I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
No
worries.
There was one other thing I was going to say. What was I going to add? I don't remember. It's gone. I'll have to message you if it comes back.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what it was. I was just going to say, I just wanted to support what Shay said in the chat, which is that she loves how genuine and funny you are on your socials. And I agree. I find your socials, they come up in my feed a lot, and I find them really entertaining. So I don't think that you should be self-conscious or worried about that at all. You're very genuine and authentic, and I always stop and have a little look, because you've got like a gentle but very like sweet and nice sense of humor, which I enjoy.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And yeah, Shay's got it in the chat. You can phrase it.
Yeah, I just
Just a
read that.
donation of $10 to $20. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Radio.
5 is
Thank you.
really too low.
Okay. Even for just an hour class, and they
Yes.
all BYO their own mats and everything, like
It's
basically.
for charity. It's for charity. If it was for your personal gain, it's different. But when it's for charity, it's for charity. People are happy
Okay.
to pay.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful. Let's take one lucky last. Who wants to jump in?
I don't mind jumping in.
Beautiful. Lucy.
Hello, ladies. So I'm really right at the beginning of my journey. So I don't even have a website, Instagram page, anything like that. So my struggles and challenges I'm facing is not knowing where to begin. There's a lot of areas that I want to go into, but I don't know how to start. And I also, going deeper into that, I feel in myself that I need to do more training or read more books or have up my level of knowledge to be able to offer something to people, like the other ladies are saying, to be able to, somebody wants to invest in you. Although I'm teaching to people every week who enjoy my classes and they keep coming back. But it's then the mesh between streamlining, finding a way, but also feeling like I need a base to start, somewhere to begin. Yeah.
So Lucy's just signed up to do the next round of the group program with Edwina and I. So you are going to get all of that, like all the getting clear on your niche and getting clear on what your offerings are and everything. That's all going to come. You don't need to worry. Like you're going to go through a whole process and journey that you will definitely come out the other side with a lot of clarity. What I would say, what I will comment on now is, and I know this is relevant for many of us, is this thing of feeling like we need to do more trainings. I still have it now. Like I feel, and I've actually kind of let it go because I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to just be forever learning. Like I don't think it's ever going to end. And that's okay. It's beautiful. It's like learning is my hobby. But there's a difference between, and this is something I think is really helpful to tap into. There's a difference between always being on a journey of learning and expanding and growing because we're passionate and we're excited and we're curious versus coming from a space of less than because we feel underqualified or not good enough. So that's the reframe. I think, you know, it's like there's nothing wrong with wanting to be learning and growing and signing up for new courses, and you know that's probably going to be a lifelong journey, but just checking in with yourself that it's coming from that space of curiosity and excitement and not from the space of less than. And I know for myself there have been times, I haven't done it for a while, but I have definitely done it in the past, where I've signed up for things because they fill a gap of something I think I should know, rather than I'm actually really excited to learn this thing. And those ones are the courses and the workshops that you just struggle through because they're just not actually aligned with your passion. So yeah, watching out for that. There are a couple of clues there. The things that you're signing up for because you feel some sort of obligation, not helpful. And then that feeling of sort of less than, or I've got to fill a gap. But if it's passion and excitement, then that's beautiful. That's a lovely thing. And what you'll find is, as you're teaching and sharing with your community, what you're teaching and sharing gently evolves in alignment with what your current interest is. Like if you look back through my Instagram, for example, you'll see an evolution in the stuff I'm sharing, based on my own personal evolution. And that's a beautiful thing. Your audience can grow with you. We don't have to, that's another sign of the patriarchy, right? Is when we feel like we have to be in one box and we have to stay in that box and it has to all make sense and it has to be linear and it has to be organized and structured. No, it doesn't. It's okay if we're meandering and off on a bit of a tangent and down a rabbit hole and then back up again. And, oh, I used to think this, but I don't think that anymore. Like that's okay. That's human. And that's the feminine modality of learning. Like what a beautiful thing to be able to say, publicly without shame, I changed my mind about this thing, or I have a different perspective to what I used to have. That shows that you're growing and evolving as a human being, versus this kind of like, oh, it's embarrassing, it's awkward, I think differently. No, that's, again, that's the patriarchy. It's not intelligent, actually. It's very closed. So when we can just be in this beautiful, open, spacious, curious place, then we're serving our clients. And then we don't have to come from this place of fear that there might be something I don't know about. Like, one thing I've noticed in my own teaching as it's evolved and as I've gotten more confident, it's not necessarily that I know more. It really isn't. But what it is that I'm less scared that people will catch me out or ask me a question I don't know the answer to. Like, I really am open to people asking me, like when I do podcast interviews, for example, they'll often ask you in advance, oh, is there anything you don't want to talk about? And I'm like, no, because you can ask me a question. If I don't know the answer or I'm confused about the answer, I'll just say I don't know, or I'm still confused about it, and it's, what a beautiful space to be in, to give other people permission to still be in a space of working things out and evolving, and especially, which I know for you, Lucy, is your work, when it's women's work. Like, we're talking about things that have to do with cycles, and it's not a line. It's so we can be in that, and it's beautiful, and we can celebrate it. It's just we're not taught to be, and so we have to recreate frameworks and paradigms within which that feels safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. And the rest of it, don't worry, because the journey is about to begin.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, that was a beautiful session. Thank you. Thank you, as always, for your openness and your honesty. Please remember that I am here for you and I'm available. You're very welcome to message me anytime, and I'm here to support you. So I love receiving your messages. I love giving you support, and I love hearing what you're up to. Let's all stay in touch. Have a beautiful week.
Thank you. Thank you.